So hi, welcome to the Rise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with...
I'm Aaron from My Epic.
And we have some questions to say about the new album, Loriella. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
I'm excited. I feel like, when fans give specific feedback, like really specific, if you want to give someone good feedback on a creative project, like a movie or book, say specific things if you really want them to receive it. So people are like specifically noticing things and the intention and the work exactly the way we intended it. So far, so good.
That's awesome. The album front to back is so good. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. It's incredible. High Color is my personal favorite. I fucking loved it. It was an instant add to my playlist. So fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And we worked really hard. My wife's trying to teach me and my therapist to receive compliments better. And I'm always thinking that scene in Barbie, the beginning of Barbie, where she's being given the award and she's like, thank you. I worked really hard and I deserve it. and so she's always like, babe, when someone says something nice, I'm always like, oh, well, and she'll be like, if she's across from, she'll be like, she'll snap and point at me like, don't you do it. So thank you. We worked really hard and it means a lot to hear that.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Definitely. I'm going to play it a little coy if I can though.
Okay.
This is sort of like we signed a new label. We haven't put a record out in a couple of years. We've been working the whole time, but COVID, I had a baby. One of our members was sick for a while. So it seemed like we went away. And so it seemed like most bands in this position would maybe do a self-titled, like, hey, we're back. This is like our statement for who we are. And I've always sort of felt like that was missing a creative trick of like, an album title having a name. And so Loriella is sort of like, do you guys know the movie Citizen Kane?
Fuck, I've been meaning to watch it. No.
You're busted. You're busted. I mean, it's considered by some the greatest film of all. I'll be honest. I have never actually seen it all either, but I've seen parts of it. And so there's the famous thing at the beginning of the movie. He says, as he's dying, this old man, he says, Rosebud. And the whole movie, there's like this question of what does it mean? And at the end of the movie, you discover what it means. And it's, in some ways, it's like a very like insignificant, small little memory from his childhood. But in another way, it's like referencing his whole life. And it's this like kind of like little talisman that means so much more. So I would like for Loriella to mostly stay undefined yet. I'd like it to just be the name of this collection of songs. And so that people would have a chance of like, wait, what does this mean? Like, let me just anything we could to let the audience like meet us on new ground. But it is a rosebud. It has a lot of rich meaning and someday I'll share it. But for now, I'll just say like, it sounded lovely and it fits the title and the cover. We had a friend named Eric Hurtgen, who's a friend of Tanner, who's a member of our band. This guy does incredible artwork. We should never have been able to afford him. His last cover was like a Sting cover.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I know. That's what we said. But he's a friend. He dug the music and we wanted it to be bright. We wanted it to be simple so that like, when you're looking at it on your tiny little phone, like you can tell like that's the Loriella cover. It's like very geometric.
Yeah.
But like what it means is like a long conversation. It fit the album, it fit the title. And I'd like it all to stay a little mysterious. Not because there isn't a good answer, but because it probably would take longer than you want me to go right now. And B, like, I'd like people just to like, let it be the album for now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Let people kind of put their own meaning to it, I guess.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or add on top of our meaning. You know what I mean? Like,
there
right.
you go.
Yeah.
Damn right.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah. I mean, we started as soon as we finished Violence, which was our last record. We started writing right away. One of our band members was like, we should get going right now. And I was like, yo, I'm empty. I'm out. You got all my riffs. They're all on the last record. Nate, who's in our band, is actually a full-time producer. So he's like, I'll bring a bunch of riffs and we'll just get started and then you'll catch up. And thankfully we did because COVID happened, which slowed things down. And then, like I said, I had my first child and I started a company. My wife started a company. And then Nate had a bunch of health stuff. So we intended on this coming out in 2022, but it did not. And it is here now and I'm glad for that. But I mean, we have an interesting writing, which is like I'm like a singer-songwriter at heart. Like I strip it back to chords and lyrics and melodies and like I want it to work that way. But most of the time when you have a traditional singer-songwriter, it's like they'll write like a very simple outline of lyric, idea, melody, chord structure, piano, guitar, whatever. And then they go in with their team or the producer and they like flesh it into like a whole song. But we sort of add a step to the beginning, which makes us even less efficient, which is like we get together and we jam for like we're listening for riffs and tones and ideas. And I mean, we come much more from like heavier music background. And so it's like, what are the tones or what are the feelings? And then I'll sort of feel like, oh, that's matching this. Usually there's like 10, 8 or 9 big things in my life. And like, that's what I want to write about. And so it's like, okay, there's this riff, there's this tone, like there's this feeling, it's aggressive or it's triumphant or it's like beautiful or it's heartbreaking. Like, is that matching one of these things that I kind of got a bookmark on? And then we'll demo out like sort of without lyrics and with just like, I'm like just singing nonsense, like gobbledygook. And then I'll go by myself for a long time and like strip back to chords and like write. And then we'll come back together and like kind of sew it all together. So it's like inspiration and then the bones to make sure it works. And in the past, there's always been a couple times, like most songs, it works out great. There's a couple times when that second and third phase, like when the song is finished, you wish you could throw away some of the stuff you wrote in the first phase because it's not because it's not good, but because it's not right. And it's it's not fitting. It needs to all come together to be the best song it can be. And so this was the first time where we produced it ourselves. Our friend Matt Goldman, who's produced a bunch of our records, who still helped engineer the drums, and but Nate produced the record. And so it kind of, we always had this superpower in the van that we weren't using, which was like Nate will spend like nobody we're going to pay is going to spend 3 years mixing a record and like
and do it affordably.
No, we certainly don't have that kind of money. And so he, in the same way that I would like just work on the lyrics and the melodies until I'm happy, like he did the same thing with the production. So it's a maximalist production, and we weren't really worried about kind of overshooting it or overdoing it because we've been musicians long enough that like we're all going to call the ball. And our third member, Tanner, is like, his taste is like incredible. So he's the one who'd be like, yeah, that is really cool and way too much. So it was the same process we've always done, but we've been able to like, every song this way is the way we wanted it to be. There's not a single song that you're like, oh, it turned out good, people are going to like it, but it's not what we wanted it to be. They're all the way we wanted them to be, which is super exciting.
That's awesome. How did you guys kind of stay in the creative process throughout all of the life changes and the COVID and everything going on at the same time? How did you guys manage to stay creative throughout the whole thing?
It's a great question. I think it felt like there was breadcrumbs the whole, we've been artists for a long time, and most of us are artists. We have 2 jobs. Like I do this and own a video production company, and Nate does this and produces records, and Tanner does this and owns kind of a coffee empire. And is like opening all these shops and has his own brand and stuff. So some of it is like we're being fulfilled other places, but also like we know what it's like, the process is like, and that doesn't make it suck less. But like I can go like, yeah, I wrote all week and I know not a single thing of it I'm going to keep. But that's what happens sometimes. Like, and I have all these little mantras of like, I'll be awesome later. Like right now, I'm just trying to make something and I'll keep chipping away. The nice thing is our taste is solid. So I just know now that the gap between what I can make and my taste, I can close it if I work hard enough. And so sometimes it's like this, I want to be done with this. No, it's not as good as the stuff I like. Well, then I'm not going to lie to myself and say that it is. So I think some of that is like maturity. And then the other part I'd say is like the song God, the universe, call it what you want, was like giving us breadcrumbs the whole way. Like maybe I didn't figure out this verse, but like there's a new riff. Oh, that riff's exciting. Or like this song we figured something out on. So there was incremental. It's funny. I had a friend ask the other day, like he was kind of like, we were having a very philosophical luncheon, and he asked me, do you ever have delusions of grandeur? And I said, no, I have plans for incremental growth. Like I always want to be thinking, okay, if I wish I was here in 10 years, or I wish I could make this, what's the thing I could make in 1 year that would help me get there, and planning on it. And so, and all 3 of us, like now the band it's really just a family of dudes. We've all, thankfully, like there's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 dudes in this band over the last 15 years. We're all still friends. Like everyone who's left is left because their life just got busy. So like my brother doesn't play that much, but he's my brother and my best friend. One of the main members for the last 15 years lives around the corner from me. And this last weekend we went on tour and he came and ran merch because he just want to hang out. Awesome. So yeah, it is sweet. It is totally sweet. The best part of being in a band is being in a band, like with each other and making things together. And so at this point, all 3 guys that are really active, me and Tanner and Nate, are all primary songwriters. So there could always be like, I'm tapped. Can someone take this and move it and just come back with ideas? And then Alex, who's our main drummer, who's also in a band called Silent Planet, is also just prolific. So that also helps that like being tired and like being able to pass the baton is super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn, so your process is, as you said, you do have a couple little extra steps in there that we haven't heard before. But I think it's fucking awesome how you guys come to your music. That's fucking incredible. So just to clarify, start to finish, you guys start off jam sessions, correct?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, okay, did you hear a riff that you like in there? You take that riff, you go and you kind of hum along to it to try and find lyrics or something with it and try to connect it to an emotion that you're trying to write with. Is that correct?
That's pretty close. I say we all come to writing sessions with ideas, with like riffs or parts. And so we're like, what do you think of this? And now at this point we can tell immediately whether everybody's excited about it, which sometimes means, I mean, every once in a while we'll really fight for something because he's like, I know I'm not expressing it right yet. And so every once in a while there's all this trust that's built up where it's like, I'm playing this card where I'm not letting this idea die yet. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to work on it, come back. But usually we're all coming with ideas. And then I'd say in that moment, everybody's vibing or not vibing. Yeah. And if they don't vibe, then it's like, okay, can I poke it with a stick enough and bring it back and reintroduce it in a new way? But everyone at this point, me and Tanner and Nate, we're all able to go from captain seat to like being sort of musical enablers to going like, okay. Yeah. I'm not hearing it yet, but what is that? Like we talk a lot philosophically. We rarely talk about key structures, that stuff, and time signature. Like we have a lot of weird time signatures. They always happen because they just sound right. Like it wasn't like, let's write something in 7/5 or whatever. It's like, I wrote a riff that happens to be in 7/5. I don't know why. So we'll be in that room and we'll be showing ideas. And I'd say right then I'm having initial melodic ideas. Like I'll hear like melody ideas. And so it lets me know, because even though it really are an equal partnership, I have this, and I'm going to assume you're Glory and that's Shane. I don't want to assume which is which. Okay. Yeah. Glory. I would say I have this accidental trump card, which means if I can't write lyrics and melodies to it, I can be like, something about it isn't working for me. And I don't ever play it on purpose, but like an idea will die because I can't figure out how to. So yeah, we come in that space and we're writing and we're sharing ideas. And everybody's kind of like, yeah, let's move forward on that. And at the beginning, it's like woodshedding. Have you heard the term woodshedding?
It sounds very familiar.
Like you're just trying to get it's the mantra, we'll be awesome later. So right now, anything that's decent, we're all a little bit, we hear something, put it on the pile. Yeah, keep that. Yeah. And so a lot of times I'll show them something and the best ideas almost get like waved off in the sense of like, yeah, that's a good one. Just put it on the pile. Like, we don't need to talk more about that. Like we have like 10 songs to sort out. Exactly, which emotionally is like, it takes a lot of trust to know, like, that was the good wave. Like that was that's a winner, whatever. Yeah. Next idea. And then those ideas we're jamming on to like form a full song structure. So like maybe that first practice, we come out with some parts. We know like, there's this part that's rad. It seems like a chorus, seems like a verse. It wants to be a bridge. And then we're like, okay, do any of these parts go together? We have a lot of conversations about like, okay, what would feel right after that? Like what emotion would there want to be? And as those conversations are happening, it's starting to make sense to me, like what the overall like emotional arc of the song is and like, what would that match with? Yeah. And then as you go, like, and then, once there's a full demo where like there's a full song structure and there's general arc to like the riff structure, then I start writing lyrics and melodies. And then every once in a while during that process, some stuff dies or gets killed, or it's like, oh, the next part that's supposed to happen here is really dour and the idea isn't dour. And I'm way more strong on the idea. So most of the time it works pretty seamlessly and it's how we work. But sometimes in that process, you got to go, 9 steps back. Yeah. Is that making sense?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I just want to clarify. Fucking awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hell yeah.
You guys have great energy. You guys rule. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Thank you. So would you be able to tell us what song off this album is going to write and then which one is your personal favorite?
That's tough. That's really tough. Longest to write, I'm going to guess would either be Late Bloomer, which is the first song, or North Star, which was the first single. Okay. Because they both just like North Star was the last song we started, and it started with just the bass and the drum groove that is at the beginning. And that happened live in the room. We're like, it'd be good. Honestly, that song happened because when Alex plays with us, a lot of times he like tries to play a little bit like my brother would have played, just as like an homage to make sure it all fits. Yeah. And we were like, okay, we need one more song. On this song, Alex, don't play like Jesse. Play like Alex, because that gives us something new to play with. And he's like God tier good. And rarely like do we let him? Well, he doesn't want to. He's just such a musical guy that he doesn't overplay. You might think a metal drummer would like, oh no, dude's taste is like caviar.
Yeah.
So he brought that idea, and then it took forever to figure out the bridge, and then the chorus was falling flat. And so it was like last summer. I mean, we've been working on it for 3 years. Last summer, we're like, chorus isn't working. It like now the bridge is so awesome, and the verses, the chorus has to be the best part. What the freak? So we like stole drums out of a song we had tanked that like had this bouncy kind of Deftonesy feel.
Yeah.
And that gave the energy to the chorus. And then I wrote the vocals. So that one took a long time. And then Late Bloomer was a giant riff song. It was a huge opening riff. And that was one of the ones where by the time I finished the lyrics and I showed it to Nate, he was like, dude, everything has to change. Like what you just sitting in the room and playing an acoustic. He was like, that was so moving that everything should move to that. So those two took the longest to figure out. And also, I mean, all the songs felt really special. So we just did it. The label was super supportive and they know we have a track record. They're like, turn it in when you're stoked. And then my favorite is like, well, I guess it's not like picking my favorite child because I only have one. So Goldie is my favorite child. I think it's hard to say because the singles were all done. Like we knew which ones were the singles and we like, so we finished those first. And so those are like, it's like the newer stuff is always the most, if you ask me what's my favorite record, it's always the new one, or I wouldn't put it out. Doesn't mean it'll be the fans' favorite. I think Wildflowers is our favorite right now, which is the second track, because it is like the band in like a really tight shot. Like there's no wastes. Like we have a lot of really long songs. And so we did try this time to like not write. There's like one super long song on the record, which is cool. But we have so many of those that are our biggest songs over the last 15 years. And it's sucks to write a set list because it's like, well,
Christ, yeah.
if we're not headlining, it's like we got 40 minutes. Like that's going to be like 6 songs. It freaking sucks.
Yeah.
So
ridiculous.
So this time, and we all love pop music a lot. And so like we let that, we fought to like write songs shorter. And also like I grew up on the tail end of the grunge era. Like I remember being in elementary school when like Cobain died and like the Pumpkins and like the Foo Fighters and all those, like some of my first favorite artists. And we've never tried to obscure that, but it's been cool for me as like younger kids, like earlier in my Epic's career, like metalcore was really having its first like moment, at least in like, and every time we play with local kids, like they just want to play breakdowns, which is cool. I don't like, no, that's cool. Breakdowns are sick, but like part of me was like, dude, I feel like we're missing melody here. Like melody's cool. Right. And so it's been cool the last 10 years to watch like the new emo revival and to watch like 90s music getting cool again and to watch kids who are into aggressive music, like writing melodies. And like some of my favorite musicians are like 19 and I'm not 19. So, which is cool. Like, or it's like a 19-year-old girl. And I'm like, this rules.
Yeah.
It rules.
Awesome.
Yeah. It rules for me as having a daughter. Cause I'm like playing it all. I'm like, here, Boy Genius is on SNL. Life rules.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So, Wildflowers is like a tighter, punchier song, kind of does everything. There's like I always describe it as it's like if Refused to try to write a Gin Blossom song, then they'd accidentally make a My Epic song. So that's my current favorite because the singles feel a little less new to me.
That's fair enough. Oh yeah. So how did the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener to be the opener, closer to be a closer? Did shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, we're nerds on sequencing, especially because we come from like more from the record, like we're growing into the single era. So I do think Late Bloomer is the first song I finished lyrically, and I wrote it to be like our last 2 records, Violence and Ultraviolet, are about pain, struggle, doubt, fear, lack of trust. And so, and this, thankfully, those are still very real things to me, but that's just not the moment I'm in. And I'm like, I want to write a record that's about like my life is more joyful. It's not perfect. Triumphant was the first word that made sense. Like I didn't want to write a not big record, but I wanted it to be joyful. And I wanted there to be a like, the whole record is sort of like after the loss of innocence, like right after you've taken a few hits in the mouth in life. Cause when you're, I was privileged and some of us are privileged enough to have really idyllic childhoods. And we have really simple versions of like what the world is and what life means and maybe who God is and all that stuff. And then life punches you in the mouth in a few times. And it's like, so now what are my choices? And, and I respect anyone who becomes a cynic and I don't shame anyone who's in a cynical place, but I will say, I think you should fight tooth and nail against cynicism because I think it's early death, believing that nothing beautiful can come, nothing good can happen. And so that was like the memorandum from moment one was like, we're not gonna force it to be a fake record that's happy, but we're gonna lean into those things. We feel those things. And so Late Bloomer was like meant to like take people by the hand and be like, hey, okay, I know the last record was like really tough. Like, what is the first lyrics are like racing heartbeat, catching breath. Oh my God, that was close. The adrenaline ebbs. When it's over, what comes next? Yeah. And so that was like meant to be like, okay, life freaking punched you and life can suck again. But like, how do we live? We have to live, right? If we're alive. Everyone in your life is rooting for you to be alive. Like almost everyone wants you to be alive. Almost everybody you should keep in your life wants you to be happy and wants you to be fulfilled. And so what does that look like? And then Heavy Heart, which is the last song, was like the second song I finished. And that was like this big warm hug of like, what does unconditional love look like? I mean, as a new father, like I had a great set of parents, but like it was a total new level to have a daughter. And so those were right away. And then it was all like, how do we draw the line between those two and not write a record that's like kind of fake hallmarky? Like that's not the goal. So there's a lot of struggle in there, but those two came automatically. And then the rest kind of sorted itself out. The last decision was, I think, where to put Red Hands and Make Believe, because they're the heaviest and the prettiest song together. And most bands wouldn't have two songs that sound like that. Like that's the beauty and the bane of Being My Epic is like, we love doing those two things. And we'd probably be more financially successful if we could just pick a freaking lane. But we like both of those things. Yeah. So screw anyone who's like, it's what we want to make, you know,
exactly.
Like, right. Like, and some people like, that's their favorite song. And some people, that's their favorite song. And I needed both songs, which is why I'm my first audience. Like I needed both of those songs. And so it's like, we just lean into like, okay, the play is to put Red Hands 8th and put Make Believe 9th. So it's like the heaviest and then the prettiest, which like kind of like raises the roof of the record and makes the prettiness of Make Believe hit even more. Like like we're such a band of dynamics. Like we love heavy and pretty. And if you put them together in the right way, and then you get the bigs to sound bigger and the quiets to sound, you get the feelings. We want big feels. So, so that's the story on the sequencing.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Yeah. I mean, I said that a little bit, but I mean, obviously Nate had a lot of health struggles, but those ultimately like made him a lot healthier. And one of our, Jeremiah was in our band since the beginning and took a little time off. Like he left the band, which was tough because he's one of our best friends. But he was like, dude, I'm the second best bass player in the band. Like Nate, who was playing guitar, is like kind of like God tier on bass. Yeah. And he was right. Like, he's like, his life was just getting too busy and he couldn't justify it. And so, like I said, he came on the last two tours to run merch and hang out because it worked. So there was a lot of changes that happened, but that also we signed with a new label who we've had incredible relationship with our old label, some of our best friends, but we just felt like we weren't growing anymore. And so it's like, what can we change in the equation? And the new label offered us a lot of money and the same amount of respect. So we really felt super freaking empowered. Yeah. And we also felt like the last record, which was our heaviest, if you strip out the heaviness and I just play them acoustically, like they're also our strongest pop writing, like, and which is like, some of our earlier roots are like Smashing Pumpkins and Third Eye Blind and Nirvana and stuff, which is like, that's pop music, but it's what was cool about Nirvana was it was bands taking all the cool sonics and integrity and the DIY of the hardcore underground scene and wrapping it around Beatles song structures. Yeah. And turns out like the culture was ready for it. So all that stuff, feeling empowered, feeling excited, not feeling like in a moment anymore where it's like those heavy songs and the struggling songs were the songs I needed. And in this season is like, but I don't want to live forever with survivor's guilt or cynicism. And so coaching myself through like, what does it look like to admit that life can be as absolutely awful as it can be, and to not minimize that. Like, I think sometimes people can be like, when you're having a tough moment, they like want to coach you out of it. And it's like, you got to grieve well to heal well.
Exactly.
You have to feel your feelings. And what does it look like to admit that the bottom is as deep as it is and still know that the top is as high as it is. Mm-hmm. And so like, that was sort of the place I was writing from, of like all the really empowered, really feeling excited, and feeling like we were putting ourselves in a position to like and not as a bad talking any of our previous catalog, but we were going to do it in a way where it's like, we're going to make the thing we've always wanted to make. We're giving ourselves permission, like this far into our career. Like if we're not going to do it now, when are we going to do it? So, and we have this we don't have a big fan base. I always tell people like, we are successful. We are marginally successful, which means that most people have never heard of us. But there are some people for whom we are one of their favorite bands. And it's like, how freaking successful do you need to be? Like, I mean, it's just nice that there's a saying that the true reward of good work is that you get to do more of it. So you better like the work. And so for us, it's like someone's writing us checks again, sick, empowered, excited. And I think matured, like to like go, yeah, what does hopefulness look like when you've taken the hardest hit you can take?
Absolutely.
Damn.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Oh man, I will seed that back to them in one sense and cheat. I'll say like, for you, what is the right way? Like I have a friend who, like one of my best friends, one of the guys I call, he's a writer that I respect when I'm stuck lyrically. And for him, he puts it on the background for a while and doesn't pay attention to it like the first 5 or 6 listens. So that his like subconscious is like taking it in. And then he'll do like he's like an audiophile. So he's got like super hi-fi and like vinyl and all that stuff, like everything. But he'll like prep his like subconscious for a while. I'm like, dude, that's wild. Like I'm more like a special person. Like I want to save it to like a really great, like I'm driving to vacation and I know I'm not going to be bothered for a couple hours, and I'm going to put it on and just like vibe out on the highway, or like it's a Sunday morning and I'm just reading, like, so I would say like, yeah, yourself, but what I will say to answer your question specifically, Shane, is it is a maximalist record. It is an ear candy record. So if you are not hearing it on good speakers or good headphones, that's cool. Do you, but there's a bunch of stuff waiting for you when you do. And I've had a lot of friends be like, dude, I put the headphones on. It was like it has been mixed and mastered over years by a guy who's a genius at that. And who has like, I don't want to be too long-winded, but I have a little bit of a more of an answer here.
Go ahead.
So
go for it.
I've always struggled with folk music because I love the intention of the songs are so like classic country or folk or Americana, where like singer songwriter kind of John Prine, 4 chords and the truth. Like I love how intentional the songwriting is, but then the production often falls flat for me because the idea has always been, they already wrote a perfect song. Just put a mic in front of them. Don't screw it up. But I'm also of the Radiohead era. So like, I love ear candy. I see that as a tool too. Just as like, I see the intentionality of like someone slaving away over chords and melody and song structure and lyric for like years. Producers do the same thing and create sounds. Like some of my favorite bands don't have lyrics. So this record, like I've loved, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like the new California sound, like Blake Mills, Phoebe Bridgers, all that stuff where like, there's a singer-songwriter, but as much intention is going into the production as the songwriting. And that has been like chef's kiss for me, to be like, the song, the simple little seed of a song is like so special. But then someone else was like, and now I'm going to work that hard on every tone sounding wildly interesting. And Nate would say, we're in an era, and it's a good era, where like bedroom production is like amazing. Like you can just buy a couple plugins and have amazing sounding guitar tone, which is a good thing. But it kind of means that like, it's not hard to have a good sounding guitar. Like it's not hard to have a good sounding bass anymore, but it's something to have a special one. And so something Nate worked for was like, as much as he could, every tone being super special. Like, let's not just record an acoustic. Like how can we make it sound cool? Let's not just have a drum. And it's not just about tricks. It's not about like something we can maybe put in press. Look, we did hang an amp from the ceiling and spin it around. We did some of that stuff, but it's more so like it actually sounding special.
Yeah.
And so it is, when you're ready to hear it on headphones or a good sound system, there's a whole other world waiting for you, because someone like labored over every tone, and not just in like to be cool, like he wanted it to fit the emotion and the feeling and like all serve the idea.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Hell
yeah. I love fucking ear candy records. So that shit, it makes me so happy. And your friend listening to it, just having it on in the background, subconscious, I do that shit too. And
Really?
I don't even think of it because I have it on because I have like fucking 3 other jobs. So it's like when I'm
I feel
working
that.
on something else, I have my music on and it's very low, but it's in the background. And then when I actually finally sit down and listen to it, it's like I already know the fucking the beat drop. I already know the fucking breakdown. I already know like lyrics partially, even though it's the first time I've actually listened to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking awesome.
It also kind of
Subconscious
lowers the
is-
stakes on the first listen. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like it just gives you a chance to kind of like take it in. Cause I mean, how many of us, our favorite record is one where the first time you like didn't know if you liked it?
Yeah, the first time I hated my favorite record.
What's your favorite record, Gloria? I got to know.
Technology by Don Broco.
Oh wow, I never would have guessed.
Wait, I got to listen to this. I've never even heard of this.
You don't get me started, man. That band, I could talk
What's
about
the band
them
name
for
again?
hours. Don Broco, DonBroco.
All right. I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, incredible record, front to back. It's
Wait,
fucking-
Shane, you got to tell me yours too, man.
Oh man, I guess
is your favorite
the good old cop out would be "I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love" by My Chemical Romance.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I've definitely heard that one.
yeah, that's
No,
the
and there's,
reliable.
like millions of people agree with you, Shane. So, you know, like it's a good opinion.
Hell yeah. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Triumphant, heavy, beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, right?
Oh yeah. And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I want them to feel supported, and I want them to feel like hope isn't irrational. It might be hard to be hopeful, but it's not irrational.
That's fucking powerful. Hell yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Well, the negative would just be like, oh, well, we were recording in the summer of 2022 and trying to wrap it up. And we had taken new photos for the new label. And then we were at Nate's house because we worked out of 3 studios and one of them is at his house. And he came down and was like, so guys, I'm having a thing with my heart and I need to go to the doctor. Yeah. And it was like an old condition that hadn't surfaced in a long time. And it had surfaced enough that it was like kind of scary. And he'd been kind of warned in his early 20s, which he's, you know, in his early 30s now. And so it was kind of a scary moment, and it left me and Tanner. Tanner can produce, but it's not really his job. Yeah. And I certainly can't. I'm not the tech guy. And so luckily his brother Tyler also lives with him and his wife, and he knows how to run the board. And so it was sort of like, okay, my guy, like you get what you need to, we're with you. Like, yes, of course, that's the most important. And then me and Tanner were like, you know, kind of left like worried for our buddy, like checking in with his wife all the time. Like, can we go in? Does he need anything? And at the same time, like trying to make progress. Yeah. So that was a tough moment, but I think like we got clarity from the doctor pretty quickly that there's no immediate danger and that like being there was what he needed and things were going to be okay. And so Tanner and I just played in his studio for a couple of days without him. And it's interesting because there's different alchemy all over the record of like, oh, this is more Tanner and Nate. This is more Aaron and Nate. And every different alchemy, like the song wouldn't be that way if it didn't happen that way. And so like, that was a tough moment because it had already felt like it had taken a long time. And I mean, we're worried on an existential level about our buddy. Absolutely. But in the long run, I can say like, we did some stuff that might not have happened. And when Nate came back, he came back the last day we were in studio. We like sat down, like, here's a bunch of stuff we did. What do you think? And he was like, yo, that's all really cool. Like, I don't know how you got there. I'm like, well, we got there because something weird happened, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Okay. Well, everyone's been letting me down because no one has any good green tea anymore. I don't know what's happened with this country. It's going down the toilet.
What the fuck?
I know. I used to like this green tea called Honesty. And it's got like a little honey in it, and it's like not that high calorie count. So they have that, and I get to make up the scenario, right, Shane?
Yeah.
Okay, well then they have that. They never do anymore, and I have to just get Coke Zero or whatever. Yeah. And then I got to get a snack. Dang, that's tough. Right now, it's probably I'll just answer quick. It's probably just like Smart Pop, the white cheddar flavor.
Ooh,
nice.
Hell yeah.
Low calorie, tastes good.
Damn right. And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Oh, this is like, you should have given me time on this one, Glory. I know I'm supposed to answer quickly. Okay, so I would say we are a really good arepa. There's an arepa place here in Louisville that we've been eating at that all the guys love. It's like legit, and it's that the soft corn flour tortilla. There's like meat in there and sauces. It's heavy. There's a lightness of the outside. I mean, I can go way down the rabbit hole, but it kind of has all of everything you want. It's like crunchy, and there's umami, and there's sauce, and there's some veggies. Everything.
Damn
Nice.
right. Good
Oh
pick.
yeah. And for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
With a drink. Dang, okay. Death row. I'm probably still gonna pick that green tea because I never get it. And I'm just kind of like, now you've got me really even madder about it. I'm probably being my head about it all day.
Sorry to open that wound up again.
That's okay. Yeah, it's on you guys. And then last meal. Oh, dang. I would probably go. There's a deep dish pizza place here in town, which I know that's very like, people have strong feelings about deep dish pizza. So if they want, I can just say I like lasagna, whatever. They can keep their opinions to themselves. But there's a deep dish place called Imperizelli's. It's really good. And that's what I would eat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. All right.
And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
One fictional world for a week.
Mhm.
Yep.
One fictional world for a week. Man, most of the fictional worlds I like are very, very full of strife. I don't want to go there. Yeah. Oh, I mean, let's just go easy. Like I'd go to Hogwarts for a week. Like
there you go.
You know, like who wouldn't want to go to Hogwarts for a week?
Exactly. What house are you?
I mean, it's so typical. I'm a lead singer. I'm Gryffindor.
Okay.
But I'm very well happily married to, I believe my wife's Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw. She's a little bit of both. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Fuck
nice.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I think my daughter's Slytherin. So
yeah, that's fucking hilarious.
Now I've done asking last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Clear.
That's not an answer.
I can't go with the old Monty Python joke.
No.
You know what? I will say, okay, I'll say this. I wore black most of my life because I now I realize I didn't really like how I looked, which was a part of not liking myself. And in the last few years, I've fallen in love with wearing white and bright colors because I've done a lot of work and I'm happy and I like my life. So I'll say, can I say white? Can I say white? That I like white?
Yeah.
White. And which is a big thing for me to say, Glory. Like it's a big thing for me to say.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
I'll let you have it.
And I wear a lot of pink now because I have a daughter and that rules. And anyone, and I have a bright like purple rain jacket, and it's funny because it shouldn't be, but it's a bit of a Rorschach test. Like if someone brings it up, I'm like, you're saying a lot about yourself that you care at all. That it bothers you in the slightest that I wear a purple pink jacket.
Exactly.
So you should talk to your therapist about that.
Work on that.
Just a good color. Like what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So as I said, that's all the questions I have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Check out Loriella, obviously. And later this month, we're going to start to release what we're calling Loriella the film, which will be, we went to a studio, we performed the songs live, and we kind of did it in a cinematic way, and we tied it together with some cool stuff. So that'll be coming out. And then keep listening to this podcast because Glory and Shane seem like rad people. They ask good questions and they have great energy. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
If you're one of our fans who came here because of me, then go check out their other stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. Now it's been Aaron from My Epic, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.